Hello and welcome to NH1.com. My name is Kimberley Haas. Today I'm here with Marilyn Bachman. She is the face behind the new hands-free law here in New Hampshire. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberley, for having me.
Yeah, maybe you could start, Marilyn, by introducing yourself a little bit to the audience at home for people who haven't had the chance to meet you yet.
Sure. Well, I'm Marilyn Bachman, and my husband was John Bachman. On December 23rd, 2013, John was at the end of our driveway retrieving the mail from the mailbox, and he was hit by a distracted driver and killed.
And what have you been doing since then? I know recently you've visited some high schools in order to educate people about the dangers of distracted driving and the new law that's coming into effect on July 1st.
Yes, I've been busy doing a lot of public speaking, especially with the program for Driving Towards Zero campaign that's coming into effect in July 1st of this year, which I'm thrilled that that's happening. I've done a big kickoff with the New Hampshire auto ship dealers in New Hampshire with the state police and the annual convention that the state safety transportation had in Meredith. I've also done work at several schools, giving presentations to them, and I've got a Rotary Club speaking engagement coming up, and just looking forward to July 1st.
Yeah, what do you tell people when you go into the high school? What do you tell those teenagers that are just so attached to their phone? They grew up in a culture where texting is prevalent. Yeah. What do you say to a teenage student to try to persuade them to put down the phone in their vehicle?
Well, first of all, I don't think they're interested in any data or line bar charts or anything like that. I try and really hit home with them and describe to them the feelings, both on my side of how I felt and my friends, my family, and also on the driver's side. Certainly, that family has also been affected terribly. And just life goes on, and this is going to be something that all of us have to live with for the rest of our life. And if I can make a difference and persuade one person, whether a student or an adult, to put the phone down, put it in a glove compartment, put it in your back seat, put it anywhere where you really cannot be tempted to pick it up. But I'm trying to describe to them what it was like that day, what it was like that spring, where I remember the snow melting, where John was laying, moaning and covered in blood and such. I was just terrified that that snow was going to go away, and it was going to be the last of my visual memory and the pain of what that was like. What it was like to go to court and sit in a superior court for 5 days. I mean, any kind of a justice system environment is intimidating to anyone. But this was really long and hard and tedious, and there were just so many things that were happening all at the same time, witnesses and so on. And you know, the jury is sitting right there and listening to medical reports, and it was hard.
It's a lot, huh? When you tell this story, obviously you're talking a lot about those emotions, and those emotions bring the message home. Your husband was killed right before Christmas.
2 days, December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. And I was actually just going out to do a quick errand, and when John went to retrieve the mail in the mailbox, and the door is still open, mail is still in the mailbox, and I could hear him crying for help. Yeah.
How do you survive those tough holidays?
Well, I have a lot of great memories, for one thing, and that that keeps things very much alive. And yeah, they're sad, certainly, because I don't have that person right there to touch. But you know, John and I had a great life together. We did a lot of fun things. We did a lot of different things. For one thing, we went to Iceland for a New Year's Eve. I mean, who goes to Iceland for New Year's Eve? I mean, bizarre things. But we always laughed. We always had fun together. But shortly after the accident, I was searching around on the website about distracted driving, texting, and such. And I came across multiple websites where they have, you know, anti-texting information. One of the websites I thought was very intriguing was they were selling these thumb bands, similar to the bracelets that you wear, only these bands, you put them on your thumb. Because when you're texting, you're using your thumbs. And on the thumb band, it was printed, wait to text. And it was W8, the number 2, and then TXT. I thought that was just so catchy, and it's really a great reminder. So I started a donation fund, and I held a donation, a fundraiser. A friend of ours was in a band, and the band played for entertainment and such, and I had all kinds of texting material out for people to look at, and we had raffles and that. So that's how that started. The money raised in the fundraiser, I bought these texting bands, and I distributed them to a lot of our local businesses. I have multiple friends that they gave them to their family members, to their children, to teenagers. At the school, I went and met with the resource officer, and he put a number of them, a big pile of them, in a fishbowl for the driver ed students to take, and you know, and so it started out that way.
That's really neat. So you've been working very hard to spread the message. You mentioned the family members of the man who was driving distracted and killed John. Have you ever reached out to that man to have a meeting or some sort of resolution?
I have. I had a meeting with the person and that, and I truly believe that if he could take back that split second, he would do that. I believe that he is quite sorry for what has happened, but in any event, it's done. You can't take it back. John is not here with us, and you know, he's going to have this to live with the rest of his life. And yeah, I have invited him to participate in the Driving Towards Zero program, so that's totally up to him.
Do you think that you could ever forgive him?
I think I have to, in order to go forward. Yes, I could not live harboring that kind of those emotions. They're way too strong, and no, it's not my nature, and I still have John. He is in my spirit.
Now, of course, many of us know, because John was a public figure, he was a fire chief in Amherst. People remember him differently. How would you like John to be remembered? Well,
And John was a very unique personality, for one thing, a very strong personality, but yet a very giving personality. He did a lot of things that were fun, a lot of things that were different. He was involved in the political arena somewhat. He was a master gardener. He was a writer. He was a baseball umpire, both for the National Baseball Umpires Association, American Legion umpire. And then later on, he was a coach for a town baseball team. He was an electrical engineer by profession. He had his own business that we had on the property, a small business. It dealt with some electronics. And he was always doing, I call him the Mr. Wizard. There were always little projects that he was trying, pursuing, inventing. And so it was never a dull moment. It was always a fun time. Fabulous conversations, as you can imagine. So, and then I was working at the time, and so he had my house all day to himself. So, when I was home on the weekends, I would always tell him, "You go out in the office. I want my house for myself for a day." But we had a piece of property. He was sort of a gentleman farmer, fruit trees and gardening, and he loved to display his products. On the side of the road, we had a little fruit stand, and he would love to talk with the people as they come by. And so he was multifaceted for sure.
That's wonderful. And I also know from talking to you on a previous occasion that he was very thoughtful husband. You have one of his cards here today. I'd like to wrap up by having you read a portion of it to our audience at home.
John had written several love letters to me and has sent me very personal cards in the past. I can share some of this card. My letters I keep very dear to me, and I'm not prepared at this time to show or share any of those, but here's a card. So this is just a very short portion of the card and what it says. It's very touching to me personally, so sometimes it's kind of hard. And I look forward to the privilege of growing old and holding hands with you. And then in John's handwriting, it says, "I love you, and we will hold hands through the rest of our lives." John.
Oh, so sweet.
Such
a loving man.
It is.
I hope that everybody remembers John, and I hope all of you at home remember John by just putting down the phone in your vehicle, and please be prepared for July 1st when the hands-free law is in effect. Thank you so much for watching NH1.com. From the studio, this is Kimberley Haas.